You've been carrying something, not in your hands, not on your back, but in your chest, a weight you can't name. The pressure to be liked, the fear of being judged, the need to meet expectations you never agreed to. You smile when you're breaking. You say yes when everything in you wants to say no. You rehearse your words before you speak, because somewhere along the way, you were taught that who you are isn't enough. But here's the question. No one asks. What? If the problem isn't that you care too little, but that you've been taught to care too much. About the wrong things, the invisible cage. Most people think overcaring makes you a good person. But Montaigne saw the truth centuries ago. It makes you a prisoner. You become addicted to control. You seek applause in every room you walk into. And worse, you become terrified of silence, because silence might mean you don't matter. Michel de Montaigne, a 16th century philosopher, did something no one around him dared to do. He walked away from politics, from prestige, from applause, and locked himself in a tower. Not out of bitterness, but out of a desire to finally hear himself think. He didn't write to be admired. He wrote to understand what it means to live well, without being owned by the world's expectations. The shift begins with one question. Montaigne asked something radical. What if I stopped pretending? What if I stopped performing? What if I just let go? That question still burns today. Because the truth is, most people don't live. They audition. We dress like we're being judged. We speak like we're being recorded. We wake up every day wondering who we need to become to be accepted, and in doing so, we lose the one thing that actually matters: ourselves. The way out, Montaigne didn't preach detachment. He practiced it, not as cold indifference, but as liberation. He realized you don't have to fight every battle. You don't have to win every argument. You don't have to prove your worth to people who were never looking for your soul in the first place. When you begin to care less about the noise, you start to hear your truth closing beat. So here's the shift. You're not broken for wanting. Peace. You're not weak for stepping back. You're just remembering what Montaigne knew all along. Peace begins the moment you stop trying to be someone else. CTA. Let go of what weighs you down, and you'll finally feel how light life can be. Imagine this. You walk into a room, and for the first time, you don't scan the faces to see who approves. You don't rehearse your words. You don't shrink or shapeshift or adjust your voice. You just exist. Calm. Whole. Unbothered. That's not arrogance. That's inner freedom. And it begins with something most people misunderstand completely: indifference. Not apathy, but mastery. Let's be clear. Indifference isn't the absence of emotion. It's the control of emotion. It's not that you don't feel, it's that you choose what deserves your feeling. Michel de Montaigne didn't shut himself off from the world because he was numb. He withdrew because he wanted clarity. He realized something we often forget in this age of overstimulation. The soul which has no fixed goal loses itself. When you care about everything, you stand for nothing. Your life becomes a weather, vain, spinning with every wind of opinion, but indifference. That's when you plant your feet. That's when you decide what matters and let go of what doesn't. The world will pull you in every direction. Every time you scroll, someone's selling you something: a lifestyle, a philosophy, a path to happiness. You're told to hustle harder, love louder, glow up, show up, never let up. But Montaigne's silence was his rebellion. He found power not in doing more, but in doing less. He understood that true confidence isn't about being liked. It's about being unchangeable. In who you are, when people praise you, you remain still. When they criticize you, you remain still. That stillness, that's indifference, rooted not in pride, but in peace. Your energy is currency. Every time you explain yourself, every time you stress over how someone interprets your tone, every time you carry the weight of other people's expectations. You spend a part of your soul. And yet, what do you get in return? Montaigne's answer was devastatingly honest. He who fears he shall suffer already suffers what he fears. In other words, your anticipation of judgment is already a form of judgment. You lose twice, once to their opinion, and once more to your own self-betrayal. But when you start to care selectively, your energy returns. You begin to walk lighter. You speak without trembling. You look in the mirror and see yourself, not the reflection others want you to be. Closing beat. So the next time someone pushes your buttons, asks you to prove yourself, tries to pull you into the noise, ask yourself this: is this worth my energy? Or is it just another trap dressed as importance? Because the moment you learn to care less, you begin to live more. CTA. Hold your peace like a flame in the wind and let nothing blow it out. There's a moment that doesn't come with fanfare. It's quiet, almost unnoticeable. You're sitting alone, and something shifts. You no longer feel the urge to respond, to explain, to fix how others see you. You just breathe. And for the first time, you don't need to prove anything. That moment is not weakness. It's not numbness. It's power. The power of letting go. Letting go is not giving up. Most people think letting go means you've lost, but in reality, it means you've won. Because you no longer need validation to feel real. Michel de Montaigne learned this in solitude. He didn't need to conquer empires to find meaning. He didn't need applause to feel alive. Instead, he examined his own mind, not to be admired, but to be free. He wrote, "The greatest thing in the world is to know how to belong to oneself." Think about that. In a world obsessed with fitting in, he chose to fit inside his own soul, and in doing so, he discovered the secret. You don't have to grip life so tightly. It flows better when you release your need to control it. Why the world resists your freedom. But here's the catch. When you let go, others notice, and they won't like it. Because your freedom will threaten their fear. Your calm will disturb their chaos. Your silence will echo louder than their noise. People who are ruled by external approval can't understand someone who isn't. They'll accuse you of being cold, detached, selfish. But what they really mean is, why aren't you enslaved like I am? This is the paradox of living freely. You will lose some people, but you'll gain something far greater. Yourself. Let go of control, reclaim your power. You can't control how people interpret your silence. You can't control how they feel about your peace, but you can choose to protect it anyway. Letting go isn't passive, it's active surrender. It's refusing to be dragged into storms that aren't yours. It's realizing that you were never meant to please the whole world. Montaigne didn't argue with fools. He didn't chase approval. He simply turned inward because he knew that peace isn't something you find, it's something you return to once you stop chasing everything else. Closing beat. So here's what happens when you finally let go. You laugh more. You sleep better. You breathe deeper, because you're no longer carrying the invisible weight of what will they think. And that's when life starts to feel like life again. Not a performance, but a presence. CTA. The less you grip, the more life gives. Open your hand and watch peace pour in. There is a strange moment, quiet, invisible, when the weight that you've carried your whole life begins to loosen. It doesn't happen when someone praises you. It doesn't happen when you win or impress or achieve. It happens when you're alone. And you no longer need to be anyone other than who you are. No costume, no armor, no mask, just presence. That's when you realize you've been chasing approval for so long, you forgot what peace feels like. This is where Montaigne takes us, not to greatness as the world defines it, but to something far rarer. Wholeness. 1. The disease of self-abandonment. From the moment we can speak, we're trained in the art of performance. Say it nicely. Don't upset others. Make sure they like you. Don't be too loud. Don't be too soft. Smile. These aren't just behaviors. They become survival strategies. We start curating ourselves. We edit our personality based on the room we're in. We learn to detect micro-reactions. Did they laugh? Did they nod? Did they approve? But in the background, something tragic happens. We abandon ourselves. We become what others expect, at the cost of our inner truth. And here's the brutal irony. Even when the world claps for you, something still feels missing. Because deep down, you know, it's not you they're applauding. It's the version of you that you created to be safe. This is what Montaigne saw with ruthless clarity. Lend yourself to others, but give yourself to yourself. He wasn't telling us to become selfish. He was reminding us that giving the world our full selves is impossible if we've never claimed ourselves first. 2. The art of unlearning. Coming back to center. To live freely, we don't need to learn more. We need to unlearn. Unlearn the need to explain yourself. Unlearn the belief that every silence must be filled. Unlearn the addiction to pleasing people who've already made up their mind. The philosophy of caring less isn't laziness. It's sacred discipline. It means being deeply intentional with your attention, knowing that your focus is fuel, and wherever it goes, life grows. So Montaigne turned inward. He didn't escape life. He explored it, with depth most never dare to reach. He read. He reflected. He questioned. He spent time with his thoughts, like they were old friends, not enemies to escape. He didn't run from the world. He just chose not to let the world define him. There's a quiet defiance in that, a rebellion not of noise, but of stillness. 3. The silence that screams freedom. Look around, everyone's shouting, proving, defending, branding themselves into bite-sized packages to be consumed and approved. But the loudest room is often the most insecure. Montaigne offers something the modern world can't fathom. Silence. Not just outer silence, but inner stillness. That space where you stop arguing with reality, where you stop reacting to everything that offends you, where you no longer need to be right, just real. This silence isn't emptiness. It's fullness. It's where your voice returns to you. Not the rehearsed voice, not the defensive voice, but the one you lost when you first believed you had to perform to be loved. Here, in this silence, you don't become someone. You remember who you were before the world told you who to be. 4. Life after performance. What truly changes? So what happens when you finally stop performing? At first it feels like dying, because a version of you, crafted from years of fear, is dissolving. The smile on command version, the nod to keep the peace version, the over-explaining, over-apologizing, over-efforting version. That version doesn't go quietly. It begs to stay. It tells you that without it, you'll be rejected. But then, something unexpected happens. The people who loved your mask fall away, and the ones who remain, they see you, not the edited you, but the real one. The flawed, complex, beautiful you. And that's when you realize you were never meant to belong everywhere. You were meant to belong deeply, somewhere. 5. Detachment isn't cold, it's clarity. We confuse detachment with apathy. But Montaigne shows us, detachment is not the absence of emotion, it's the refusal to let emotion own you. When you care less, you don't become less human. You become more centered. You stop rushing to fix every misunderstanding. You stop exhausting yourself trying to rescue people from their own projections. You stop chasing closure in places where the door has long since been locked. Detachment is walking through life without chains. It's the ability to say, I see your opinion. I honor your experience. but I am no longer required to shrink myself to earn your comfort. And that is freedom. 6. The soul's final return. When you live this way, truly live, something profound happens. You fall in love again. Not with people, not with praise, not with pleasure, but with your own aliveness. You wake up and don't immediately scroll. You speak and don't scan for reactions. You move through the world with a softness that doesn't fear being misunderstood. You begin to belong to yourself. And you realize something devastatingly beautiful. You didn't need to be more. You just needed to stop giving your power away. Montaigne's philosophy isn't about detaching from life. It's about attaching deeply to what matters, to silence, to clarity, to the sacred weight of your own attention. 7. A world that can't own you. When you stop performing, the world loses its grip on you. You no longer chase relevance. You no longer fear being forgotten. You no longer panic when others misread you. You become, as Montaigne did, a soul that walks lightly through chaos, unafraid, unapologetic, unshakable, and suddenly the world seems different. Not because it changed, but because you did. You're no longer a puppet in someone else's play. You've stepped off the stage, and now, from the audience, you can finally see it for what it is, an illusion you no longer have to participate in. Final beat. The fire beneath the stillness. If there's one truth Montaigne whispers through the centuries, it's this. Life is too short to be lived for anyone else. You will die. That's not morbid. It's liberating. Because when you grasp how little time you have, you stop wasting it on things that don't matter. You stop waiting for permission. You stop molding yourself into palatable pieces. You stop shrinking to fit into spaces that were never designed for your full form. You rise, not loudly, not forcefully, but surely. You speak slower. You move with intention. You love without losing yourself. You give without bleeding dry. You let others go, not out of anger, but out of peace. You live, not for the applause, not for the validation, not even for the legacy, but for the simple, sacred truth that you are here. And that is enough. CTA, one-line closer. Walk away from the noise, and you'll hear the life that's been waiting for you all along.